Hello there, everyone. I'm Mark Dempsey. I'm an author and journalist. I'd like to tell you about my experience now with the Dallas School Board. Yes, the Dallas School Board here in Dallas, Texas. And whenever I think about the school board, I'm always reminded of that famous Mark Twain quote that says, "First, God made the idiot, and then he made the school board." Well, I just wanted to see if he was correct here in 2010. And after reading this article in the Houston Chronicle, I did some investigating. Now, the article is entitled "Poverty Dropout Rates Bode Grim Future for the State." And it talks about the problem that we have here in Texas. Thousands and thousands of kids drop out of school here every single year. And in Dallas, the graduation rate is only 43%. And so there's a quote here from Jack Lowe. Now, Jack Lowe is the chairman of the Board of Trustees for the Dallas Independent School System. And this is what the quote has to say. "I don't see business rearing up. And I sure don't see the state legislature with an $18 billion problem saying, man, we really need to muscle this thing up." That's exactly what Jack had to say about the problem here. So I decided to go and see Jack. I wanted to meet him because I had a project that I thought that would radically reduce the number of high school dropouts. And so I called him up on the phone. Because you see, he's the chairman of a company here called TD Industries, which he and his father started a long time ago. I think Jack is like 71 years old, and he probably went to the same school as Ross Perot with that accent. And every time I hear that accent, I have to take an audio detox. Okay, so anyway, so I call him up on the phone, and he says to me, he says, "Well, fine, that's fine, no problem. Just come on down, we'll talk about it." So that's pretty good to me. So we set an appointment. And I'm all set to go down. But before I do that, I check him out on Google. I Google him, see what kind of person I'm going to talk to, his past, and so forth. And I come across a series of videos that Jack had done about business. They were on YouTube. And he's sitting there in a business suit, and he's being asked questions by a reporter and so forth, explaining things. And one of the videos is entitled, "What is Dysfunction?" What is dysfunction? Jack is there telling the world what is dysfunction. But I noticed when I looked at the video, in big, bold, black letters right above the video, dysfunction is spelled D-I-S-F-U-N-C-T-I-O-N. D-I-S? Dysfunction? Well, hang on a second now. This is the chairman of the board of the Dallas school system. I mean, what exactly is going on? He allowed a video to be put online with that misspelling, and out of all the words to choose, isn't it ironic that the word would be dysfunction? Because you know that the Dallas Independent School Board has to be dysfunctional if its chairman can't spell the word. My goodness, where are we going here? So anyway, I go and see Jack. And he takes me into a conference room, and the first thing that he does is that he positions the dropout problem as an accounting issue, just a mere accounting issue. In other words, we really don't know how many kids drop out of school. I mean, there are lots of things that, just lots of measures we just don't really know. So what was Jack saying to me? He said, well, because we don't know how many kids drop out, it's really not that big of a deal. Because you see, you can only say something's a big deal if you can measure it, and we really can't measure this, you see. So it's really an accounting issue. It's not a student problem, it's not an education problem, it's an accounting issue. Well, I was there to talk about dropouts, and within about 15 minutes, Jack said to me, kind of angrily, he said, well, I'm almost out of time. And I said to myself, well, that's interesting. He wasn't there really to talk about high school dropouts and education. But then I changed the subject. And then I told him, I said, I had read his quote in the Houston Chronicle. And I had read the quote also on the Huffington Post. And then his eyes lit up like saucers. And he smiled gleefully. And the time problem just happened to melt away when I started talking about him and not kids. We talked about his favorite books. We talked about his business. We talked about where I lived. We talked about Dallas for a good 15 minutes, more. And you see, I realized at that time that I was talking to a politician. I wasn't talking to somebody that really cared about kids. And when I walked into Jack's place of business, I had a lot of respect for him. But when I walked out, I had very little respect for him. Because you see, at the end of our meeting, he said to me, he said, well, is your contact information in there? And I said, yes, it is. He said, well, I'll be in touch with you next couple of days. And I said, okay, that's great. Well, did Jack Lowe ever call me? Nope. Did he ever email me? Nope. Have I ever heard from him? Nope. This is the person who is the chairman of the board of the Dallas Independent School System, who made assurances to me that he would contact me, and he never did. So is Jack Lowe a person of his word? No, he's not. And this is an elected official who's not a person of his word, who I tried to get to care about kids, but he was more interested in talking about himself and his business and the books that he liked to read instead of children and their problems. You see, can you understand why that would not be the best person to be on the Dallas School Board? Anyway, I thought I would let you know about this story. And so the next time you vote for someone on the school board, just make sure that you know who you're voting for. Make sure that he has the same interest that you do, getting your child educated, instead of talking about the books that he likes to read, his business, his quotes, and everything about him. Because you see, the world does not revolve around Jack Lowe. It doesn't. And that may be news to Jack Lowe, but it doesn't. The world revolves around kids. Why? Because they're our future. And when we take our eye off the mark, we won't have a great future. Dallas won't have a great future. And Texas, a state where people who live here are so proud of the state, won't be proud when their kids can't read and when their kids can't do math. Because the people in charge of getting them to care about those things were more interested in talking about themselves. I'm Mark Dempsey. I'm an author and journalist, and if you'd like to contact me, you are certainly welcome to. My email address is markd112@yahoo.com, markd112@yahoo.com, and thanks so much for listening.